Good morning, I should say class. This is Mr. Burns, and we're going to do some adding fraction work here this morning. But before I do that, I wanted to go over a few reasons why students struggle with adding fractions. One of the first reasons that I see is that they're very weak with the math facts, okay? To be able to calculate fractions accurately, you have to be able to multiply and divide rapidly. They call this automatic. For example, you're given the math fact 3 times 5 and you can automatically come up with 15. If you can do about 30 of these kind of facts in a minute, you're good. Many of the students that I work with can only do between 5 and 20. So that means it's taking them 6 seconds, 7 seconds, maybe even more time than that to come up with a basic multiplication or division fact. The second reason that students struggle with fractions is because their memories are weak. We have different rules for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. And even though these rules aren't that complicated, they mix them up. So memory issues is another reason why students struggle with adding fractions and multiplying fractions, dividing fractions, and subtracting fractions. Specifically with getting to adding and subtracting fractions, you need to have a common denominator. For this, you need a knowledge of multiplication because we have to find least common multiples. We have to find the same number that two factors will multiply into. Again, going back to that 3 and 5. 3 and 5, the first number that they both multiply into is 15. If you had 3 and 8, the first number that they would both multiply into would be 24. So we have these kind of issues going on with finding our common denominators. That can be difficult for some students. And then the last problem that many kids have is with simplifying. And to simplify, you have to be good at division. Many of the students that I work with really struggle with division. You know, they might be able to do 20 multiplication facts in a minute, and that's, like I said, not fluent, not automatic. It's better than nothing, but when you look at division goes down rapidly. If they can do 20 multiplication facts in a minute, they might only be able to do 10 or 11 or 12 division facts per minute. So they aren't able to reverse that process easily. Well, let's now that I've expounded on why we struggle with fractions, let's do two addition fraction problems. Alright, so with this problem, I have 2/8 plus 1/10. Remember, when you add fractions or when you subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. I do not have a common denominator here. So let's just start out by rewriting this problem. Here's where I need my knowledge of multiplication because I have to find a number that both 8 and 10 will go into. The first number that they will multiply into is 40. So 40 is going to become my new bottom number. To turn 8 into 40, what I had to do is multiply by 5. 8 times 5 is 40. Now, since I changed the bottom number, I also need to change the top number. So I would multiply that 2 times 5. Same number I multiplied with on the bottom. A lot of kids will do this step here. They will multiply the bottom number, but then they won't change that top number. So again, that's an issue with the rules. That's an issue where things will go wrong. Alright, to change that 10 into 40, I multiplied by 4. So that is what I must do on the top as well. And again, if I can just kind of pound that into the head, a lot of students will do this, but they will forget to do this. So let's change that top number to 4. From 1 times 4 is 4. Alright, now we will add these two numbers together, and we get 14. We do not add the two bottom numbers together. We leave that as 40. And now I have one more step. 14 is an even number. 40 is an even number. So I have to find a number that I can take out of both of these. This step is called simplifying. And with simplifying, you need to have knowledge of division. The biggest factor that I can get out of both of those is a 2. All right. So this is what we're going to end up with this problem. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So here's the step-by-step process of doing a division problem, or sorry, not a division problem, you silly Mr. Burns. It's an addition problem. Let's take a look at one more addition problem. Here we go with our final addition problem. Here I have 7/8 plus 3/10. I need to go back to my rules, and my first rule is, do I have a common denominator? No, I don't, so I need a common denominator. That's a multiplication thing. You have to be good at multiplying. The first number that 8 and 3 will go into is 24. Again, I'm going to show you this step by step. To turn 3 into 24, I multiplied by the 8. I multiplied by 8, so that means I also need to multiply the 1 by 8 to get 8. To turn 8 into 24, I multiplied by 3, so I also need to multiply that 7 by 3. And now I have 21 from 7 times 3. All right, let's go ahead, and first step is to add these. So I have 29 from 21 plus 8. And now I have another problem. I have an improper fraction, and with most of our math we don't like this. So we need to do another step in our simplification process. My problem as it stands now says 29 divided by 24. So let's set that up as a division problem. Okay. How many times will 24 go into 29? The answer is 1 time. Put my 24 there and subtract. I get 5. Now I'm going to put everything together. So I'm going to start out with my whole number, which is 1. What am I dividing by? 24. So that number goes on the bottom. What's my leftover piece? 5. So that goes on the top. And my answer is 1 and 5/24. I cannot do any more simplifying with 5 over 24 because they don't have a common factor. 5 goes into 5, but it doesn't go into 24. 2 goes into 24, but 2 does not go into 5. Watch this video again as many times as it takes to see how we add fractions.